When my grandson tugged at my sleeve during the wedding banquet, I thought he only wanted to ask for another glass of juice or to run around the hall like the other children. The music was loud, the laughter of guests even louder, and the scent of roses mixed with fried food floated everywhere in that big, decorated hall. I leaned down, my ears not as sharp as they once were, and he whispered, "Grandpa, look under the table." At first, I chuckled. Children often imagine strange things. Perhaps he thought a monster hid beneath the white cloth, or maybe he had dropped his toy car, but the look in his eyes was different. Wide, insistent, almost frightened. So I bent lower, my knees protesting, and lifted the heavy linen hanging down to the floor. What I saw made me forget the music, the chatter, even the shining chandelier above. There, crouched in the dimness between chair legs and discarded napkins, was a small box. Not just any box, it was carved old with brass edges glinting faintly. It looked wildly out of place beneath the satin-draped tables of a modern wedding. My first thought was that it belonged to the decorators, maybe part of some forgotten prop. But the box wasn't dusty or abandoned. It looked purposeful, planted. I glanced at my grandson again, and he whispered, "It's been following us." "Following us?" I repeated, startled. His words were nonsense. Or maybe I had misheard in the chaos of the hall. But the boy's face was pale, and I could feel his small hand trembling. I pulled the box into my lap quietly, hoping no one noticed. The speeches were starting, all eyes on the groom, my son, and his new bride. No one cared about an old man fumbling at a table's edge. The box was locked with a clasp that looked as old as my grandfather's cane. Something about it made my chest tighten, a pressure both heavy and familiar, like déjà vu. I didn't open it right away. Instead, I slipped it into the pocket of my coat. My grandson nodded with the solemnity of someone who had accomplished a secret mission, and for the rest of the speeches, he sat silently, eyes fixed on me. After dinner, while the others danced and clapped to the beat of drums, I slipped away to the corner of the garden where the fairy lights cast long shadows across the grass. My hands shook as I opened the clasp, half expecting dust or cobwebs. Instead, inside the box lay a folded piece of yellowed paper, and beneath it, a ring. The ring was not just any ring. It was the one I thought I had buried with my wife 20 years ago. The golden band with the small emerald, the one she had worn on our wedding day. My heart lurched. I remembered dropping it into her coffin with trembling fingers, a final goodbye. How could it be here, gleaming as though freshly polished? I unfolded the paper. The handwriting was hers, my wife's. I would have recognized the curves and flourishes of her letters anywhere, though I hadn't seen them in decades. The message was short, and my knees nearly gave way as I read. "Do not let him make the same mistake. Stop it before it begins." That was all. No signature. No explanation. Yet I knew it was hers. The way the T slanted, the loop in the G. It was impossible to mistake. I must have swayed because suddenly my grandson was beside me again, his little face tilted upward. "I told you, Grandpa. It's been following us. I saw it yesterday in the garden. And in your room. It waits." I held the box tighter, my breath coming short. My mind raced. My wife had been gone for so long. Her voice had faded from my ears, her touch from my skin. Yet here she was, warning me. Warning me about what? About my son's marriage? About this bride he had chosen? I wanted to dismiss it as madness, the tricks of an old mind weary from the noise of weddings and the weight of memory. But the ring was real in my palm, cold against my skin. The music carried on. My son and his bride spun in the center of the hall, eyes locked, smiles bright. Everyone cheered. I wanted to cheer too. He had found love after years of loneliness. But the note gnawed at me. Do not let him make the same mistake. What mistake? I had made many. I had married young, too proud, too reckless. I had let my wife carry burdens she should not have carried. I had chosen ambition over presence too many times. Was that the mistake? Or was it something darker, something hidden, something she had known but never told me? I thought of the bride's family. Wealthy, stern, a little too polished. I had overheard whispers of debts, of bargains made quietly. My son loved her fiercely, I could see it. But love blinds. I, too, had once been blinded. "Grandpa," my grandson whispered again, tugging my sleeve. "It's moving." I looked down. The box was no longer in my hand. I swear I had gripped it tightly. But now it was on the ground, sliding an inch across the grass as though pulled by invisible strings. The boy clutched me harder. It doesn't like being ignored. A chill spread down my spine. I bent, snatched the box, and held it to my chest. I wanted to throw it away, to bury it deep, but I couldn't. It felt alive, as if it had claimed me. For the rest of the night, I stayed quiet, smiling when required, clapping when others clapped, but my mind was far away. The note echoed in my head. My wife's voice seemed to whisper with every beat of the drum, "Stop it before it begins." When the bride tossed her bouquet, I saw her glance at my son with an expression I couldn't name, part devotion, part calculation. And for a moment, I wondered, was this what my wife wanted me to see? Or was it only my fear dressing her face in shadows? After the wedding ended and the newlyweds drove off under a shower of petals, I sat alone in my room with the box and the ring. My grandson had long since fallen asleep, exhausted by dancing and sweets. I turned the ring in my hand, remembering the day I had placed it on my wife's finger, the promises I had made and broken, the years I had stolen from her with my stubborn pride. The box sat open, empty now except for silence, but I knew it was not truly empty. It had brought me my wife's hand from the grave, her warning across the years. What should I do? Tell my son on his wedding night that his bride might be a mistake? That his dead mother had sent me a warning? He would laugh, or worse, he would pity me. A father's shadow on a son's joy is a cruel thing. So I stayed silent, but inside a storm brewed. The note would not leave me. The ring burned in my palm. My grandson stirred in his sleep and murmured, "It's still here, Grandpa." And I knew he was right. The box had chosen me, but it had also chosen him. It was no longer only my burden. It had passed into his young eyes, his trembling whispers. The wedding was over, but something had just begun.
That night I did not sleep. I sat by the window while the moonlight painted the floor silver, the ring tight in my fist. Every creak of the house seemed louder, every shift of wind a whisper of my wife's voice. My grandson lay curled on the bed, but even in sleep he murmured as if speaking to someone unseen. I wanted to wake him, to ask what he knew, but I was afraid. Children see things adults cannot. What if he told me the box was watching us from the corner? I dared not look. When dawn broke, I thought perhaps the light would clear the madness from me. The box sat on the desk where I had left it, harmless in the sun, just a carved relic. Yet when I tried to move it, I found it heavier, as though filled with stones. My grandson awoke, rubbing his eyes, and the first thing he asked was, "Did it say anything?" His question chilled me more than the night had. "What do you mean, did it say anything?" I asked. He pointed to the box. "It talks sometimes, but only when you listen." I wanted to scold him, to tell him it was imagination, but the words died on my tongue. I remembered the note, the handwriting that should have been impossible. Perhaps the box did speak, only not with sound. Perhaps it spoke with memory, with guilt. I carried it back to the cupboard and locked it away, but the weight of it seemed to press against the door. That day we were meant to visit my son and his new bride at their home. Tradition demanded the family come with gifts and blessings. I went with my grandson, but my steps felt heavy, my chest tight with unspoken warnings. When we arrived, the bride greeted us warmly. She looked radiant, her eyes bright, her voice sweet, yet I saw the flicker of something in her gaze. Calculation, as I had glimpsed before. My son was oblivious, his hand clasped in hers as if he had won the world. During lunch, I noticed small things. The bride insisted on pouring everyone's tea herself, but she handed my son's cup last after watching each of us sip. When she spoke to the servants, her voice hardened, sharp and commanding, unlike the gentle tone she used for guests. My grandson seated beside me refused to drink his tea. He leaned close and whispered, "It's here too." I nearly dropped my cup. "Where?" I hissed. He only tapped the underside of the tablecloth. My stomach turned. I wanted to look, but I feared what I might see. My wife's note echoed in my head, "Stop it before it begins." That night, I dreamed of her. She stood at the foot of my bed wearing her wedding dress, the emerald ring on her finger. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with urgency. "He is walking my path," she said. "Do not let him repeat it." I tried to reach her, to ask what she meant, but she faded like smoke, leaving only the cold ring on my palm when I woke. The days turned into weeks. My son's marriage blossomed in front of the world. They were admired, envied even. But in quiet corners, shadows stirred. He looked thinner, his laughter shorter, his eyes tired. The bride often spoke for him, answering questions before he could. I watched as she led him in every matter, guiding him like a hand on a puppet string.
He seemed happy, but it was the happiness of a man who does not realize he is caged. The box remained in my cupboard, yet sometimes I found it open when I had not touched it.
Once I discovered the ring had moved to the windowsill, gleaming in the light. Another time, the note lay unfolded on my pillow, though I had locked both away. My grandson never seemed surprised. "It wants you to act," he said simply. "If you wait too long, it will choose someone else." One evening, my son came to visit alone. He sat with me in silence for a long while, then confessed, "Father, I feel tired. She is wonderful. She cares for me, but sometimes I feel I'm losing myself. Do you think love is supposed to feel like this?" His eyes were searching mine, seeking truth. My heart ached. I wanted to tell him everything, to show him the ring, the note, to say his mother still watched and warned. But fear chained my tongue. He would think me senile, haunted by ghosts. So I only said, "Love should make you more of yourself, not less." He nodded slowly, as if those words confirmed what he already feared. That night, the box moved again. I awoke to the sound of it scraping across the floor. It sat at the foot of my bed, lid wide open. Inside was no longer the ring or note, but a small mirror. When I looked into it, I saw not myself, but my son, older, wearier, broken. His eyes were hollow, his hands empty. Behind him, his wife stood smiling, wearing the emerald ring. I slammed the lid shut, my breath ragged. My grandson stirred and said, without opening his eyes, "It's showing you what will be if you do nothing." The following days were torment. My son grew quieter, and I knew the box was right. The pattern of my life, my mistakes, was replaying in him. I had let my pride consume my marriage, let silence corrode love. Now he was giving himself away piece by piece to someone who seemed to care but only wanted control. My wife had seen it coming. She had begged me, even from the grave, to stop it. But how? How does an old man break into the heart of a marriage without shattering it? The answer came one stormy night when the box rattled so violently in the cupboard that I thought it would break free. I opened it trembling and found the note changed. New words had appeared beneath the old ones. Tell him the truth. Or lose him forever. I knew then what I had to do. The next morning I went to my son's house. He looked worn, his hands trembling slightly as he welcomed me. The bride was out visiting her family. It was the only chance I might have. I sat him down, and with all the weight of my years, I told him everything. About the box, the ring, the note. About his mother's dream, her warning. About my own failings, how I had let pride and silence nearly destroy us. He listened, at first with disbelief, then with a fear he tried to mask. When I showed him the ring, recognition flickered in his eyes. He remembered it from childhood, how his mother had worn it daily. When I gave him the note, his hands shook as he traced the letters. "It's her," he whispered. "This is her hand." Tears filled his eyes. He pressed the note to his chest, then looked at me with a mix of sorrow and gratitude. "Thank you for telling me. I thought I was imagining things, that I was weak. But if Mother saw it too..." He broke off, his voice cracking. That was when the door opened and his bride stepped in. She froze, seeing the ring, the note, the fear in his eyes. Her smile faltered, then returned sharper, colder. She set down her bag slowly. "What stories are you filling his head with?" she asked me sweetly, though her eyes burned. I stood, my back straight despite the years. "Only the truth," I said. The silence between us was heavy, charged. My son looked between us, torn. But then he did something that gave me hope.
He placed the note on the table, slid the ring across it, and said to her, "If you love me, you'll accept that my mother's voice still matters."
"If you cannot, then perhaps we were wrong." Her face hardened, the mask slipping for the briefest moment, and I saw the cold steel beneath the charm. She left the room without another word. My son collapsed into a chair, burying his face in his hands. I rested a hand on his shoulder, the box heavy in my coat pocket. The storm outside raged, but inside, I felt a strange calm. Perhaps we had stopped it in time. Perhaps my wife's warning had reached him after all. That night, when I returned home, the box was gone. I searched every corner, every cupboard, but it had vanished as though it had never existed. Only the ring remained, still in my son's possession, and the note folded in his pocket. My grandson smiled knowingly when I told him. "It's finished," he said. "It wanted you to listen. Now it doesn't need to stay." But even now, sometimes when the house is quiet, I think I hear it. The faint scrape of wood against floor, the whisper of linen lifting under a table. And I wonder if the box is truly gone, or if it only waits patient for the next mistake to begin.